like to think that most of us in education were good at school, okay? I like to joke with my students all the time that we teachers are so good at school that we never left, okay? We're still here. I'm 42 years old, and I never left. When I was younger, I did pretty good at school. I got good marks. I played the game where I gave the teachers what they wanted, and I got validation, and I felt pretty good. I went looking for the positive attention I was seeking, and it worked out pretty well for me for a while, but eventually my circumstances changed, especially by the time I hit high school. Now, I do want to say first, I have a really good life right now. I'm standing in front of everybody here. I got a couple of degrees. I got a great job. And I have a beautiful wife who's here, and I have a new child who I swear is going to have a much better life than I ever did. But I do wonder sometimes how I would have turned out today in the internet age. Growing up in Newfoundland, our life revolved around the water. My father worked on the deep sea trawlers, and as kids we lived and we played by the water. Life was really normal for me until I was about 9 years old and my little brother drowned. In the few years after my brother died, my parents weren't home very often. They would take turns going in and out of the hospital. They would get sick, go in the hospital, get shock treatment, come home, get better. And the other one would do the same thing. Go in the hospital, get shock treatment, come back home. By the time my father was actually ready to go back to work, the fishery shut down. Our family fell into social assistance. Lucky for me, I had my books, and I like to escape into the stories and read. That was where I went when I wanted to escape all my problems. Even more lucky was that I had a lot of friends who supported me. They were good students, and they were my friends since kindergarten, and they would also support me with books as well. Okay, they would actually give me books when I couldn't afford to buy my own. Even more important than that, I had teachers who supported me. My teachers all looked out for me, and everyone knew me, everyone knew my history. I think, I'm actually certain, it was during these formative years and this support that I got, especially from my teachers, that I was able to eventually make it out. However, in grade 7, I had to move, and everything changed. Our family declared bankruptcy, we lost our house, and we moved from house to house, town to town, and I eventually ended up in the mega city, the metropolis known as St. John's. I went from a town that had 300 people to a city with 120,000. It was a culture shock, trust me. I lost all my friends who knew me and my history. But another thing that changed was I was in much bigger classes than I was used to, and the teachers always seemed to be a little bit too busy to see how I was doing. Another thing I noticed was I ended up in neighborhoods where all the other kids were going through the same things I was going through, right? They had mental illness, family tragedy, economic insecurity. They were affecting everybody who I was now rubbing shoulders with. We were living in subsidized housing, and I'm telling you, there's a reason why we were all there. A typical evening with me and my new friends involved ball hockey, which was good. I was a little thinner then, so that was pretty good. But we'd end the night off with some vandalism. If we weren't doing that, we'd head down to the mall and cause trouble in the food court. Pretty much anything that kept our minds off of what was going on at home and basically prevent going home as much as we could. I no longer looked up to my teachers for support. Instead, I went to my friends. And my friends, they didn't like their teachers too much, and they were certainly judgmental of anyone who was a teacher's pet. My teachers were not as reliable, but my friends were, so you know who I chose. I did reach out to my new teachers in my own way. When I would first join a class or a new school, I put some effort into some assignments, and I usually did pretty well. And I was looking for the feedback that went past the very vague, good, or excellent. But that didn't come very often. I was able to get a lot more attention by making jokes in class and by causing mischief. And also, that behavior in my class got me bonus points with my new friends, who would all basically talk about all the funny stuff I did in class. I started to crave the attention I would get by being a pain in the butt. It's important to note that that route to get noticed was my second choice, right? Okay, my first choice was to get noticed for the good stuff I was doing. But instead, I got the validation from my friends who valued how much trouble I can get into. Now, as a side note, I'm looking out in the crowd here, and I see a lot of people I work with and for, and I got to tell you, don't worry, my troublemaking days are well behind me. All right, okay, that was a phase, okay? I'm a different person now, all right? That's not me anymore. But I'm telling you this because I think that my experience has given me some insight into a large group of kids that show up in our classes and are on our online class lists. I do think a lot about the kids who are going through tough times and feel unseen in the class. It's a different time now with the internet. These kids are going to be looking for places to escape. Are they going to read books like I did? Ball hockey? Vandalism? Or are they going to, head off to websites like YouTube, Reddit? How about 4chan? How are they going to get noticed? Are they going to be the valedictorian, star athlete, class clown? Are they going to join groups online that enjoy trolling others? The same groups that blame all their problems on others who don't look like them or come from a different experience. Technology is an amplifier. It can amplify the voices of those trying to do good, but it can also drown out the voices of those who are trying to do bad. We have hate groups online and the alt-right who are reaching out to connect to the kids in our classes. And they're going to give them an angry chorus of voices to join. There are lots of inequities online that basically just acts as another way to alienate and frustrate our students. There's a serious digital divide. And this digital divide is affecting much of the world's population, and they're not participating fully on the internet. English is used by 74% of the people using the internet, and 84% of Wikipedia articles about North America or Europe. We have an information inequality, and we have an increasing number of students who identify with the kids who are from the countries that are not represented. We also have an economic disparity. 1% of the people own 45% of the world's wealth. But let's focus on where we are right now, Oshawa. Downtown Oshawa, 15.5% is the unemployment rate, which is twice Durham's average. 42% of kids under 6 live in low-income houses. A quarter of homes here have single moms. Affordable housing is shrinking, while house prices are increasing. This is causing these tent cities to show up down by Oshawa Creek. People can't afford to pay rent. This growth in wealth in other areas of Oshawa is just going to lead to an increase in property crimes. There's definitely a difference between here and northern Oshawa that we call Oshawa, with brand new $1 million homes. And this economic disparity could get worse before it gets better. Automation is going to change the job market very quickly. In the last census in Canada, truck drivers and cashiers were among the top jobs. We're going to have families that are going to be moving as they get evicted from their houses or look for a better chance to put food on the table. Are we going to see these kids and give them validation? Because if we don't see them, somebody else will. Somebody has to see them. What are we going to do if we have less caring adults in our schools as our class sizes increase? And how about e-learning? How do we reach out to the students and show them that there's a caring adult on the other side of that computer screen? We have a whole generation of kids who are risking feeling disconnected and unseen. We must be the ones to see them, because if we don't, somebody else will. Technology is an amplifier. So let's make sure we amplify the good. As teachers, we need to join the pushes for positive change. And more importantly, we need to show our students how to join that push as well. We're already doing a pretty good job here in Durham. We have one-to-one Chromebooks, and that's giving everybody equitable access to technology without a stigma. We have take-home internet access, and that's pretty good too, but we must do more. We have to connect to the students who are in our classes and show them how to connect to the world. We need to show them how to build the world up instead of building walls. As teachers, sometimes we have to be creative in how we do this. In my grade 9 and 10 business classes I often teach, I have to cover concepts such as commerce. How do I link commerce to digital advocacy and equity? One way I did this was through Kiva Microloans. Kiva is a website that allows anyone in the world to loan small amounts of money to people in developing nations. And they have an educational program that allows students to actually loan a small amount of money as well. Before we did this, we talked about the problems that people in developing nations were having, contributing to the online digital economy and contributing to the information about their countries worldwide. My students would do things like buy solar panels for people who didn't have electricity or buy a computer. The students would see that they could make a connection to others, and they would actually be able to address things like the online information gaps. Teachers, for the most part, can actually connect with the students in their classes. One of the ways that I did that in the physical classroom was I'd stand in my doorway and I'd welcome all the kids in the class as they came to school. I would actually make an effort to say their names and look them in the eye. And I got to tell you, for someone who has remembering and pronouncing names as a growth area, this was a lifesaver for me, trust me. But I would make it, if I sensed something was wrong, I'd make sure I seek out that student and make sure that they knew they were seen. It also allowed me to keep in touch with kids in the hallways, and I would do the same there. Online is trickier and different, but not impossible. We have interesting ways to personalize connecting with kids online. That's actually kind of ironic. We have replacement strings that will automatically enter students' names into announcements and emails and so on. We have automated email setups such as intelligent agents that will email a student if they have not logged in over a certain period of time. These things are great as add-ons, and I use them, but we have to do more. This stuff does not replace the teacher who reaches out to the student. The online teachers need to show the students there is a human being in that space with them. And as always in education, how we do this depends on the teacher. As a new parent, I like to flood my social media feed with baby spam. And apparently my online presence was the same, and obviously my TED Talks. On Fridays, I would show the Friday baby meme, and if I had concerns, I would show the concerned baby meme. However, if things were not going well, I'd show the uh-oh baby meme. Kids knew stuff was going down when they saw that one. Online teachers need to set personal context for the students in their class. They have to make sure that they're reaching out to the students, getting to know their interests, and giving them lessons that are relatable to them. It's pretty convenient to be able to take online course content and copy it from one semester to the next. But that's not really any different than the old days where we took a binder off a shelf, dusted it off, and threw it in a photocopy machine. We have to reach out to the students, get to know them and their interests that we know what they are interested in. We need to allow them to solve problems and do work in creative ways that challenge them at a level that works well for them. We need to use synchronous and asynchronous communication methods. Use audio and video in our announcements, course content, and especially in the feedback that we give them. This is only the start of how to do e-learning. There's a lot of work that we need to do to reach out to the students. And my point is, if you reach out to them, they will be more engaged in the class, and they will also be more likely to reach out to you. Kids today will be reaching out, and they will be looking for validation and to be seen. They will want to escape the troubles at home. Teachers are more than marking machines. We're caring adults who care about all the kids in our class. And how do we show that to our students each and every single day in the physical space and the virtual space? Are we going to help our students build up the world, or are we going to help them build walls filled by fear, anger, and resentment? I think as teachers, if we reach out to our students, they will eventually make the right choices that I'm so glad that I did. And in neighborhoods like this one, it's even more important and a huge responsibility. Thank you.